I want to talk to you this evening, if I can. It could be a message, but it's really just kind of from my heart. In fact, as I was coming in this afternoon, I spoke in Orlando yesterday, and as I was coming in this afternoon, I just felt very impressed to do what I'm going to do, and so it's just from my heart. It's not going to be great. It's kind of the first time I've done this, and I tell people all the time, you're never good the first time. Some of us aren't too hot the second or third time either. But I would like to talk to you about transformation, how lives are changed. And I would like to start by saying that when I was young in my leadership, I was very passionate to do something great for God. In fact, there was a saying that I used to say all the time, I want to make a difference with people who want to make a difference doing something that makes a difference. And it came from the bottom of my heart because I really did want to make a difference for God. And throughout the years, I've done my very best to do my best. But I don't want to talk to you so much about what I'm doing for God this evening. But I would like to talk to you about something so much more rich and so much better than what I'm doing for God, and that is what God is doing for me. It's wonderful for us to give our best and to give it our best shot, and we all want to do that. Of course we do. But it's also wonderful when you are obedient to just look and see the things that God does for you, that you understand, that you realize very quickly, that you're amazingly aware that honestly, only God could be doing these things. So if you'll allow me, let me just kind of take you on a little bit of a journey. I'll teach you tonight the 6 pictures of transformation. We'll just learn a little and grow some and hopefully be better when the message is over. And if the speaker is boring, come and get me and we'll both leave. How's that? Okay. I have 2 callings on my life. One is evangelism and one is leadership. They're very dear to my heart. You know, a career is what you get paid for, but a calling is what you're made for. And I was made for these 2 things. I was made to share my faith. It's something I do daily, away from pulpits and churches, because 90% of my time is spent with people who don't know God. And I really have a heart to see people come to Christ. And so evangelism is a very dear, precious calling for me. And I really sensed that calling when I was a pastor in my first year church, and this would be clear back in 1969, 1970. And then in my second calling, leadership came to me on the 4th of July, 1976. I'm still in my 20s, and I'm speaking to 5,000 people in my church. It's an outdoor dale. It's the 200th birthday of America. And I'm preaching on America and revival and how I wanted to see our country turn and change and be transformed. And in the middle of that message, God just spoke very clearly to me and said, John, the rest of your life, you're going to train and develop leaders. I wasn't thinking about leadership. I wasn't teaching. In fact, on the way home, I told Margaret, I said, baby, I think God's calling me to train leaders. And she said, what are you going to do about it? I said, probably nothing. I said, if God has really called me to do that, He's going to have to open the doors. And I'll walk through them. I have not an inkling to be disobedient at all, but I don't want to take a crowbar with me and knock down the doors. I want to see Him do this work that He's called me to. That week, I literally had 2 invitations to go to different groups to speak on leadership. And the doors opened, and they've opened all my life, okay? And through the process of training leaders, we developed organizations and we developed people that could help us do that. And from really about 1997 up to about 2005, we just trained leaders around the world. And we did it through people, and it was amazing. And we trained 6 million leaders in every country of the world. and through our nonprofit organization. And it was just a wonderful thing. And I'll never forget on our nonprofit board when we kind of felt we had finished that chapter, I shared with them that I felt there was another chapter yet in our life, in my life, in their life. And that is, I said, I feel that we ought to take the leaders that we've trained and turn trained leaders into transformational leaders. You see, a trained leader focuses on the vision. He focuses, or she focuses, on the outside, and by the way, that's good. Trained leaders focus on the vision. Transformational leaders focus on values. They focus on what's on the inside, what's in the heart. Trained leaders are for today. Transformational leaders are not only for today, but they're for tomorrow. Trained leaders help people be successful, but transformational leaders help people become significant. And so we began this journey, and it was a journey that I didn't have a lot of answers for, except I just knew that we needed to help people be transformed. The reason that I'm so passionate about leadership is when I was young, I came to the conclusion that everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything. When you have good leadership, things turn out well. And when you have bad leadership, it just goes down. It always does. It's a life-changing principle that has lasted for generations. It's true in business. It's true in government. It's true in faith and Christianity. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And so we ask ourselves the question, what allows leadership to rise? What allows leadership to do well? And it's just simply two things. Leadership does well when leaders have developed good leadership skills. They really understand how to lead well. And it also rises when those leaders have good values. And what I don't want you to miss is it's not either or. It's always both and. It's not like I have good leadership skills, but I have poor values. We don't want that. I mean, if you have great leadership skills, but you lack values, what you'll do is instead of leading people, you'll manipulate people. You'll take advantage of people. And manipulation is always wrong. We have to move people. Leaders move people, motivate people. But manipulating, when I manipulate you, I move you for personal advantage. And so if I have good leadership skills, but I lack good values, I will always take advantage of you. And the reason that I will is because leaders see more than others see, and they see before others see. And if I see before you, and if I see more than you, it puts me at a distinct advantage over people. And so when we spend time with leaders of countries, whenever I'm alone with them, I always ask them privately, not in front of anyone else, but I always ask them privately, are they leading for their advantage or are they leading for the people's advantage? Are they leading to benefit the people or are they going to benefit themselves? And so we begin this process of helping leaders be transformational. And by the way, I think it's probably important for me to say that if you have good leadership value, if you have good values, but you don't have leadership skills, I don't want to follow you either. I mean, you're a good person and I want you to be my friend, but honestly, I don't want you to be my leader. You have no clue where you're going. We could get lost together. So for the last 10 years, I've given my life to transformational leadership. And we are seeing some amazing things that God is doing for us, things that we would not have ever fathomed could have happened when we began. But what's so beautiful about obedience is that obedience is only understood on the back end. It's not understood on the front end. So when God asks us to do something that we don't understand, there's a hesitancy because we haven't got it all figured out. It's only on the back end that we understand the fruit of obedience. I mean, think of Naaman. Remember Naaman? And hey, go to see the other prophet. And he went and the prophet told him to go dunk in the dirty Jordan 7 times. And he didn't like it, so he was going home to his own swimming pool. All of his buddies talked him out and said, no, you're already here. Just go dunk. Go do it seven. He did. And when he came out the seventh time, his flesh was white and like a baby's, and he was healed. And what did Naaman do? He said, I thought when I came that this is what the prophet would do, but now I know. You see, he didn't understand until he was on the back end of obedience. I mean, the water turned to wine at Cana. I mean, can you imagine those servants when Jesus told them to fill those water pots with water and then take those water pots down the hall to the master who was waiting for some good wine? Can you imagine those servants as they're taking those water pots to the master? They're saying to themselves, we're about to get fired. It's about, this is our last day at work. And then, of course, the master says, I can't understand this. Usually the wine's for the better, the front part. It's better now. And he didn't understand. The master of the house didn't understand. But the Bible says, but the servants knew. Of course they knew. They knew because they finished their obedience. And as we're thinking of transformation, I just want you to know that that you may be right now in a position or a place where God's asking you to be obedient to something that doesn't make sense to you, or you don't understand it, or it doesn't even seem right. I don't know. But I just want you to understand that it's okay. Take the step. Just trust and obey, for there is no other way. Just take the step and then begin to see. When we take the first step of obedience, that's what we do for God. But then the fruit of obedience is what God does for us. And when we see the back end, we get amazed, and that's where we're humbled, and we just fall to our knees, and we basically say, I'm not worthy. We have an Isaiah experience, because what happens is we see God do things that we could never, ever do ourselves or could ever imagine them happening in our life. And so that's my story. And through the last 10 years of doing transformation in countries, there are 6 pictures of how transformation works. And it not only works in countries, it works in your personal life. It works in your small group. It works where you work. And so let me give you the 6 pictures of transformation. And they're simple. They're not difficult at all. In fact, look at your neighbor and say, even you can do this. Would you tell them that? Even you could do this. Yeah. In fact, look at your neighbor and say, why do you think I brought you here tonight? Okay. So here we go. The first picture is a picture of you. That's right. The first picture of transformation is you. Because that's where transformation begins. Transformation begins in my life. I can still remember when I received Christ at 17 and the passage that Paul wrote, therefore if any person be in Christ, they become a new creation. Old things pass away. Behold, all things become new. I can remember on a Friday morning getting ready to go to school and reading that verse. And the Spirit resonated that scripture with my heart. And I walked to school that day and I knew that I was changed, that I was transformed. And that was the day I began to be a transformation carrier. That was the moment that I realized that my life was changed. It began with me. It always starts with me. Sadly, we somehow, when we want to see God do a great work or when we want to see a movement of God, there's a tendency for us to wait on someone else or hope for somebody to come into our life, or maybe I'll read a great book or we'll hear a great message, and we kind of wait for something to be catalytic in transformation. And I just want you to know, you don't look anywhere else. Just look at yourself. Transformation, it begins in me. You see, mass movements, they don't begin with the masses. When you see great works of God, It starts small. And it starts with you. And the moment that I am transformed, I begin to be contagious. There begins to be something that is attractive about me because I have a message now, not that I've heard, I have a message that I have witnessed, a message that I have experienced, a message that I am now living. I have such a heart, just such a heart for the church to be contagious again. We're not contagious. It breaks me. I'm very leadership sad. I can remember one year when I was very young in the ministry, I read the book of Acts every day. Just read it every day for a year. And I kept just saying, God, show me. Just show me. Just show me things that I need to know that I could live like they do in the book of Acts. And after so many times going through the book, it just came so clearly to me that the people in the book of Acts, they lived beyond themselves. That people would look at the people that were Christ followers and they were amazed at what they said or what they did, and they lived beyond themselves. It was kind of like, I know that's who you are, but this doesn't make any sense. How could this be? So transformation, it begins in me. Starts here. You cannot give what you do not have. We teach what we know, but we reproduce who we are. So transformation, it starts very slow, very small, very simple. It begins in me. The second picture of transformation, though, is a picture of partnership. It's a picture where I realize that to do great things, I need to join others. It's a picture of us coming, it's Mother Teresa who says, you can do things I cannot do, I can do things you cannot do, but together we can do great things. If I told you that when I was done preaching that for the weekend I was going to go climb Mount Everest, just thought I'd run over and put on my shoes and shorts and jog up there, plant that flag, touchdown. He'd look at me and he'd say, oh, look, he's delusional. Of course I'm delusional. You don't climb Mount Everest by yourself, and you don't do it quickly. If you're going to, I wrote a book called The Laws of Teamwork many years ago, and one of the laws is the law of Mount Everest that says basically, as the challenge escalates, the need for teamwork elevates. If you're going to do something big, you always have to partner with someone else. There's something beautiful about partnership, and I need you and you need me, and we're better together than we are separately. I just love that. When we go into countries, right now we're only in 5 countries. We have 22 presidents of countries that have officially invited us in. That's another story. But when we go into countries, we only come in by the invitation of the president because we know everything rises and falls on leadership. And then we go to what we call the 8 streams of influence. In every culture, there are 8 streams of people that influence everyone else. There's government and media and arts and education, business and healthcare and of course religion and entertainment, sports. These are the 8 streams. And we go to the top people in those streams. We go right to the top. And we ask them to get engaged in transformation of values. I'll come and talk to you about that in a moment. But we ask them to get involved because what we realized was that unless the leaders get involved, it will never be successful. You see, influence filters down in a culture. It doesn't filter up. There are so many wonderful ministries that go to the bottom 10%. So many. I mean, it's that Matthew's beautiful thing of caring and for the sick and the poor. It's beautiful, beautiful. But you have to understand that change, influence doesn't go from the bottom up. It hasn't in the history of mankind, so it's not going to start now. It filters down. One of the companies that we have is really teaches leadership in companies and corporations. And when we go in and do leadership training, there's one thing we know. The success of whatever training program we're going to use is dependent upon the leaders getting involved. If the leaders get involved, the training will go well. If the leaders, they say, well, that's not for us, that's for you. And so they separate themselves from the training, we realize that it won't go well. You see, because people do what people see. That's just a fact. The leadership is so visual. And so we partner with other people. We partner with the business community. We partner with the media. We partner with the arts. We partner with sports. We partner with the top 10%. We connect with them. We say we need you because we know if we can influence them, we influence that whole stream of people that follow them. So that's picture 2. Picture 1 is a picture of me. Picture 2 is really a picture of you. I'm partnering with you. So in fact, look at your neighbor and say to them, this evening, the transformation begins with me. Go ahead and tell them that right now. It begins with me. And then look at them and say, and it continues with you. Go ahead. And in other words, admit it. You need them. You need them. Okay. It's a little hard, but I need you. The third picture of transformation is a ladder. And the ladder represents the fact that we're going to help people climb higher than they've ever gone before. For whenever you see a ladder, you know that the purpose of that ladder is somebody needs to go higher than they can on their own. The ladder is the tool, it's the instrument. It allows me to go higher. And so the third picture of transformation is a picture of us helping people improve their lives. And I think that's what's so significant about this transformation in helping people improve their lives is that when we take the ladder, we just don't take the ladder and throw it down and say, okay, get your act together, come on up, come on, we're here, you can do this, you got it in you, come on. No. We go down and take the ladder to them. And we not only take the ladder to them, but we hold the ladder for them. We are ladder holders. We hold that ladder for them because we want to make it as secure and possible for them to climb up. And we want them to know that they are worthy of someone holding the ladder for them. And we want them to know that they are people of value. And we want them to know that we value them in such a way that we're going to hold that ladder steady for them until they get to the top. So when I think of missions, here's what I think. If I see you as hurting, I'll help you. If I see you as broken, I'll fix you. But if I see you as valuable, I'll serve you. Don't miss it. You see, in the first two, I'm the big guy. I saw you as hurting, so I helped you. And I saw you as broken, so I fixed you. And you say, boy, thank God, John. I'm so glad you came along. What would I do without you, John? Let's sing the Hallelujah chorus. But the moment that I see you as valuable, The moment as I see you as a person that has great value in your life, God created you, then I serve you. And the attitude of a servant is so much more different than the attitude of a person who came along just in time to help those poor people. Great leadership always serves. Great leadership always puts others first. Great leadership wishes the best for others at all times. So, we've gotten 3 pictures. We're halfway through this. We're getting good on transformation. First of all, let me ask you a question. How many of you are learning something, huh? Are you learning something? Okay, all right. We're learning something. That's good, that's good. Look at your neighbor and say, I'm learning something. Go ahead and tell them, I'm learning something, okay. Now, look at the person you just said that to and say, you've got a lot more yet to learn. We're only halfway through. We're only halfway through. Are you with me? First picture is a picture of me. Transformation begins in me. The second picture is a picture of partnership. Now we come together. We come together. And then we get the ladder. We get the ladder. Okay, why? To help people, to lift people up to their potential. Are you with me? Now the fourth picture is a picture of the heart. It's a picture of the heart. It represents the values of life. Okay? It's a beautiful picture. It's a picture of being better on the inside than you are on the outside. It's a picture of being bigger on the inside than you are on the outside. Out of the heart come the issues of life. And the heart represents values. Don't miss this. In the year 2000, we had some corporate distrust in America. If all I have to do for you that are a little bit older like myself, all I have to do is say one word and we're all on the same page. Enron. This incredible company in Houston all of a sudden, overnight, folded because they weren't who they said they were. What they said on the wall was not demonstrated in their walk. They were dishonest. They took advantage of people. They went to prison. It was a terrible time. And then Tyco, and I mean, we could go on with other companies. And I was writing at that time for Time Warner, and they asked me to come to New York City for dinner, and I did. And when we sat down, they asked me if I would. They said, John, will you write a book with all the corporate scandals? Will you write a book on business ethics? And I said, well, I can't. And they said, why not? I said, well, to be honest with you, there's no such thing as business ethics. And they looked at me and said, what do you mean? I mean, look what's happening in these companies. What do you mean there's no such thing as business ethics? I said, what I mean is there's no such thing as business ethics. I said, there's just ethics. You either have them or you don't. And if you have them, they work in business. Oh, happy day. Yes! God. Well, they said, could you write a book on ethics? I said, I doubt it. And they said, well, why now? I said, because there's no absolute truth in a culture. How can you write on ethics when everything moves? I said, it'd be very hard to write a book on ethics in our culture. I said, give me a month. Let me talk to my people. Let me see. Let me see. And I came back a month later and said, I'll do it. I will. I'll write a book on ethics. And I did. And I based it on the golden rule. Just treat other people like you would like to be treated. Our team did research. Every religion in the world has a golden rule. Every culture has a golden rule. The golden rule is truly gold. And so I wrote the book on the golden rule. In fact, I got more awards on that book I've written than any other book I've ever written. It just went kind of crazy, to be honest with you. But it was a eureka moment for me, and this is what I don't want you to miss. I'm living a life of trying to develop and train leaders, and all of a sudden I realized that our problem wasn't leadership skills. At Enron, they had leaders that had great leadership skills. What we had is we had a values problem. Don't miss this. We've lost our way because we've lost our values. And when I wrote that book, all of a sudden, I saw light. I saw that if somehow I could teach people good values, if somehow they could learn good values, that it would make them more valuable. It would make them more valuable to themselves. It would make them more valuable to their neighbor. You know, if you read the passage of the fruit of the Spirit, where, love, joy, peace, we know this passage very well. I've preached on it. I've heard many messages on this. But can I tell you, I've never heard any message on the last sentence in that verse. Basically, it says all these values that I've just given you, all the fruit of the Spirit is above the law. We don't have a law problem in America. We have a values problem. In fact, when you live good values, you don't ever have a law problem. But if you don't have good values, you'll find a way to break the law every day. Wow. And that's when I discovered that values, teaching good values to lost people and having them understand how good values will help them become more valuable to themselves and to others, was the beautiful next step to being able to share your faith with them. Because the moment that they begin to embrace good values, they begin to be much more open to the teachings of Jesus. So when you think back at that ladder that we hold for people, each rung of the ladder is another good value. And every time they learn a good value and live that good value and practice that good value, they just take another step on the rung, and then another step, and then another step, and there becomes to be a values lift. In our coaching company, we have 48,000 coaches in 172 countries around the world. First thing we teach our coaches is we are people of value, who value people and add value to them. It's who we are. It's what we do. It's our DNA. We are people of value who value people and add value to them. What would happen if you really want to talk about revival and evangelism? I'm just digressing for a moment, then I'll get right back. What would happen in America if we as Christians valued people? Hey, valued people that are not like us. See, we value our own people. Oh, we're good at that. But the verse just messes us up. For God so loved the world, not just us. If you follow the steps of Jesus in the Gospels, you come away after watching him live and love, you come away with the fact that Jesus valued people. He just valued people. And if you want to be Jesus-like, you just value people. The world that I live in is a world that is lost, a world that is all messed up. And what's been amazing is that the closer I have gotten to them, the more I value them. You see, when I'm far away from them, I can devalue them. But when I see them and I hear them and I watch them and I listen to them, I begin to love them more. The closer I am to lost people, the more I love God and the more I love lost people. And the farther you are from lost people, the less you love them and the less you love God. Now, my name's John. I'm your friend. I'll move on. Let me go to the fourth picture. The fifth picture, is a picture of a table, just like this, a little table. Transformation happens one table at a time. It just does. Life change happens in small groups where people can listen and share and ask questions. A few years ago, I was asked to do the opening session at the United Nations. I was going to speak to every ambassador of the world. And they wanted me to talk to them about leadership for 2 hours. And I thought to myself, what a difficult challenge. Because these ambassadors come from different kinds of governments. I mean, some come from kingdoms. Some come from socialism. Some come from dictatorship. Some come from democracy. I mean, their whole idea of leadership, it's so different. And how hard is this going to be for me to find common ground to talk to them for 2 hours on leadership? But God helped me. And that day, I talked about 3 questions that followers ask of their leaders, regardless of culture, regardless of country. And the 3 questions are just simply, do you care for me? Can you help me? Can I trust you? And that day I talked about the 3 questions. And those 3 questions that followers ask of leaders, all 3 of those questions are answered around a table. The reason that transformation happens in small groups around tables is because it's around a table that you learn to trust the people that are there. It's around the table where you share experiences and help each other climb out of the mess. It's around the table where you learn that they really do care for me. It's the table that gives those dynamics that really makes transformation happen. There's one more picture. But before I just give you the one more picture, I just want to say, you're an amazing